In this 30-minute pelvic floor reset and balance workout, we're going to do 3 rounds of different movements so that you can better understand how we can approach resetting the pelvic floor in addition to different strategies to help bring more balance to the pelvic floor so that you can feel better in your body during pregnancy and beyond. Hey, my name is Gina. I'm a perinatal fitness trainer and birth doula and mom of 4. So I have some personal experience with working on helping my pelvic floor feel more balanced so that I can feel stronger and more functional during my pregnancies and in motherhood when I'm chasing after my 4 kids. So in this workout, we're going to move through 3 sections together. We're going to do 1 round of each section, but as you do them, if it feels really good for you, feel free to pause the video and repeat the exercises, or you can rewind and repeat that section. For section number 1, we're going to start with some pelvic floor mobility work to help reset the tension within the pelvic floor. We will do the movements on both sides, but you may notice that one side feels a little bit differently than the other. We're then going to move through 2 strength circuits where we're going to be incorporating different tools to help bring different types of balance within the pelvic floor. For section number 1, we're going to be using 1 medium to heavy weight. If you also want to grab a wedge, feel free to grab that as well. And then for section number 2, we're going to use a long resistance band that's attached around knee level. If you don't have an attachment point, feel free to omit it, and I'll talk you through what to do instead of using that resistance band. So for this workout, we're going to need a soft object or pillow to round around. We're going to need a yoga block in addition to 1 medium to heavy weight. And then optional is going to be a wedge and that long resistance band. So once you gather your equipment, let's go ahead and get started with part number 1 of today's pelvic reset and balance workout. For the first exercise, we're going to do an all-fours back expansion. You can either use a soft pillow where you can kind of hug it into your chest, or you can use a Pilates ball. If you're pregnant and you don't want to squish onto something, you can also just find a rounded position like this, where you're kind of just pushing through your hands to round in your back. So you can take your ball, place it on your belly if you're using one, and then just kind of curl around it. This is going to help you to really find a more rounded position. And then I want you to think about inhale into your back, and then exhale, pull belly to spine to round a little bit more. Big inhale into the back. Exhale, belly to spine. So when we're in this more rounded position, it's going to help to target more of the back side of our body and the back portion of the pelvic floor that we tend to hold just a little bit more tension. A lot of us tend to arch a little bit more in our spine, and this arching can kind of compress the back body. And so we're going to start today, but just kind of releasing into that space in this back expanded position. So we want to think about big inhale to feel more of like a stretch or like pressure in the back side of the body. And then exhale, activate in the front to round a little bit more. Then go ahead and come out of the position, and we're going to grab onto 1 yoga block, and we're going to start with an all-fours hip shift. So you're going to take that yoga block and place it underneath the left knee, and then we're going to shift our weight over to the left. So we're going to have more weight over here, and it's still going to be fairly stacked. From here, I'm then going to move through some pelvic tilts. So begin to arch in the back, and then exhale, pull belly to spine to round. But make sure that we're keeping weight in that left hip. You should feel a little bit more of a stretch or a sensation in kind of the hip pocket of the left hip, so the hip that's higher. So if you put your hands in your jeans pockets, you're feeling a little bit more of a stretch in that kind of spot. If you're not feeling very much, it's okay. Sometimes the tabletop position just isn't enough activation for you. But you can also think about just kind of like pushing through the right knee to push you into that left side a little bit more. And sometimes that can increase the activation as well. So we're going to do about 10 more seconds of these pelvic tilts, and then we're going to move through some knee lifts, lifting the right knee up and down. So find that more rounded position, and I'm going to drive the right knee straight up and then bring it straight down. So all the weight is in that left leg, and it's almost like I had a foam roller between my thighs, and I'm just kind of foam rolling up and then back down. So legs are staying fairly parallel. So exhale to lift. We got some glute activation, lifting that knee up, and then inhales to lower. So we're finding that hip shift again. So in this position, we're moving through pelvic rotation, where I'm rotating the pelvis towards the left and then lifting to rotating it away from the left leg. So we're finding a closed hip to an open hip position, which is really important for pelvic mobility and for your pelvic floor's function. We're going to switch to the other side in about 3 seconds. So let's go ahead and place that block now underneath the right knee. So same thing, I'm shifting my weight over to the right side, feeling a little bit of a stretch here in that hip pocket. And then we're gonna move through those same pelvic tilts. So weight is over to the right. Inhale to drop belly towards the floor, and then exhale to round in the back. And as we round, we're thinking exhale, pull belly to spine. So it's that core activation that is rounding us, not clenching in the glute. So inhale to drop down, exhale, belly to spine is what helps you round. Keep that weight shifted over to the right. Sometimes there's a tendency to kind of shift the weight more evenly between the two. But we want like 80 to 90% of our weight in our right leg right now. So again, feeling a little bit more of that stretching sensation in that right hip pocket. So the leg that's a little bit higher. The block is just bringing us a little bit deeper into this rotation and targeting the posterior quadrant of the pelvic floor. And now we're gonna move through those same knee lifts. So bringing the knee towards the floor, and then like we have a foam roller, we're rolling that knee straight up. Have a slight round in the back as you move through this. So we're finding our closed hip position where pelvis is more towards the right, and then our open hip position where we're lifting that left knee up to find a position away from the right. Typically, this will be a little bit harder to do on the right side because that right glute and posterior pelvic floor that has to kind of pull us into this open position is a little bit weaker compared to the left. And so you can kind of compare on your own body which stretch felt like a deeper sensation, which side felt easier to get into the hip shift, and which side is a little bit easier or harder with the knee lifts. So let's go ahead and remove that yoga block, and now we're gonna come to a tabletop position and spread the knees a little bit wider than hip distance. We're gonna start with the right, so I'm gonna shift to the left side, and then that right foot can come in to be more externally rotated. So shifting to the left, bring the right toe in, so we have more of a stretch in that right groin and inner thigh, and then I'm really thinking about that right hip is kind of pushing towards that left knee. So I have a little bit of a twist happening here within the pelvis. You can find a little bit of an arch in the back, and you'll feel more of a stretching sensation in that right groin and like upper inner thigh. If you want to move through some pelvic tilts, you can, or you can just maintain the hold and just kind of like wiggle and rock like forward and backwards. Just kind of choosing what sensation feels best for you. But this is going to help to target more of that right anterior quadrant. So the right side tends to be a little bit more overactive compared to the left quadrant. So just pay attention to which one feels more intuitive for you. So these groin and inner thigh stretches target more of the front half of the pelvic floor. And now let's shift to the left. So I'm going to shift my weight over towards the left side. So left hip is coming towards that right knee. And then if you want, you can bring the right or that left toe towards the right toe. So we have a little bit more external rotation. And then just pay attention to how this feels compared to the right side. Does it feel like more sensation? Does it feel less sensation? Did one side feel better than the other? Typically, the left anterior pelvic floor is less overactive compared to the right, so maybe the sensation feels differently, but it's okay to do it on both sides. So the hip shifts, we're targeting the posterior quadrants of the pelvic floor, and these lateral shifts are targeting the anterior quadrants of the pelvic floor. So all 4 quadrants are now released and stretched. So now we're gonna grab that yoga block again, and we're gonna do our activation exercise. So we'll start with the left knee. So the left knee is gonna be on the yoga block, and we're gonna be on the right side, and then you're going to lower the arm down. So that right leg is kind of 90-degree angles in front, and we're gonna think about pressing through that left knee to lift the hips, and we're gonna feel inner thigh activation on the left side. Now your right leg can either just stay down on the floor and provide some support, but I wanna think most of the activation is in my left hip. And then if you want, you can lift the right knee off the floor and just hold here. You can do some pulses. But if you need more support, just keep that knee down on the floor. If you want more of a challenge, you can think lift the right leg either completely off the floor or do the pulses. Keep pressing through that left knee to keep the hips lifted. This is helping to target the inner thigh musculature known as your adductors, which helps to support the pelvic floor in the front half. Let's go ahead and switch to the other side now. So we're gonna take that block, we're gonna place it underneath the right knee while laying on the left side. And the left knee is gonna be in front in this like 90-degree angle. We're gonna do the same thing to feel that inner thigh activation on the right side. Exhale to push through that right knee and then choose your poison. You can either keep the left leg down on the floor while actively pressing through the right. You can lift the left knee off the floor and hold, or we can move through some pulses. Again, this movement is helping to strengthen the inner thigh musculature, which helps to support the anterior quadrants of the pelvic floor. Commonly, the left inner thigh is a little bit weaker compared to the right because the left anterior quadrant tends to be underactive compared to the right as well. This may feel challenging on both sides and might feel more challenging on the left. Maybe it feels more challenging on the right. Maybe the right is fatigued. So just explore how it feels differently on each side and know that there is normal asymmetry present within the pelvic floor. So now we're gonna move into the first round of the strengthening exercises. So we're gonna start with right hold with the weights to help bias each hip into the opposite orientation. Commonly, the right hip is more internally rotated and the left hip is more externally rotated. And so we're gonna try to bias the opposite to help bring more balance to the pelvis and to the pelvic floor. So we're gonna start by holding on to a weight that's medium to heavy for us. So let me find my weight. And we're gonna hold it down by our side. We'll start with the left foot. So if you're using a wedge, you're just gonna step up onto the wedge and we're gonna hold the weight in the right hand. And so for both sides, we're gonna hold the weight in the right hand. And so this is gonna help bias the left hip more internally. So I'm gonna start by just rotating a little bit to the left side and then inhales to lower down and then exhales to stand up. So I'm thinking belly more towards the thigh with more of this internally rotated biased position. So when I hold the weight in the opposite hand, it kind of forces me to rotate towards that front leg. And again, the left side tends to favor more external rotation. So it tends to favor a more open hip position with the left posterior pelvic floor kind of tightening to pull that pelvis more open, while the left anterior pelvic floor tends to stretch a little bit more. And then the corresponding muscles with the inner thigh and the hamstrings tend to become underactive, with the quad and glute a little bit more overactive. And so when we emphasize this internal rotation, it helps us to come out of that pattern to be more balanced. Now we're gonna switch feet, but keep that weight in the right hand. And so now we have a ipsilateral hold, or a same side hold on the right side. So this is gonna prompt that hip to come a little bit more open, a little bit more externally rotated, which you may find to be really helpful if you're feeling more pinchiness in the right hip with like your squat, so you have like hip impingement. It could be that right anterior pelvic floor and pelvic wall are just firing too much to where it's kind of like forcing that hip to stay internal. And so when your hip is trying to find more external rotation, it can't, and so it pinches there. So doing these kind of like lateral shifts to the left that target that right groin, and these one-sided holds on the right can be really helpful for that. Now we're gonna move into one of the release exercises to target the anterior portion of the pelvic floor. So we're gonna start by spreading the feet out to the side. If you wanna have your weight nearby, we're gonna use it for the third part of this movement. We're gonna start first by shifting our weight over to the left. So we're gonna feel more of an inner thigh groin stretch on the right side, which again, for a lot of us, that's where we have the overactivity. So this may feel really good. I'm gonna think about that right hip is trying to touch that left knee. So I'm trying to bring these 2 points closer together. So the left knee is not flailing out. I'm not just like shifting over to the left. I'm thinking this rotation is happening, and that kind of twist is what's gonna bring us more into that inner thigh and groin. So we're just gonna kind of hold here and just kind of explore the movement. I'm thinking, okay, my hip and my knee are kind of coming closer. I'm feeling more of a sensation in this groin and inner thigh. If you don't feel much of a sensation, you may not be rotating in the pelvis. So if you're simply just kind of shifting over to the left without twisting, you're not gonna feel that much. And now let's come over to the right side. So now we're gonna feel more of a left side inner thigh groin stretch. Same thing, I'm thinking left hip and right knee are trying to come closer together. So we have this kind of twist happening within the pelvis. It's not just shifting over to the left. I want to feel more of a stretch sensation in the inner thigh and in the groin of that left side. And then just pay attention. How does this feel different than the right side did? Do you feel more sensation, less sensation? Does it feel more intuitive to be on this side? Does it feel easier to shift your weight over to the right side versus towards the left? In 15 seconds, we're gonna alternate from side to side. If you wanna hold a weight as you alternate, you can, or you can just do it body weight. And then we're just gonna alternate from side to side. So I'm gonna take reach for my right and then reach for my left, thinking hip is coming towards each knee as you shift from side to side. And then when you feel ready, if you want, you can grab onto the weight, which is just gonna bring you a little bit deeper into the upper body rotation. But we still wanna think weight is in both big toes as I shift from side to side. I'm thinking pelvis is rotating towards each knee. But ideally, we're able to shift well from side to side. We're not looking for like perfect symmetry, but we want to be able to change positions. We want to be able to come out of the right side and come into the left hip. So now let's move into our single leg deadlift. So this is going to target more of the hamstring than the kind of quad and glute. It's still going to be pretty glute though. So we're going to start with that right hold, and we'll start with the left leg is my main foot. If you want to hold on to something, feel free. So inhales to lower down, and then exhale to stand up. As I lower, maybe you drop the right hip towards that left foot, so we find a little bit more internal rotation at the bottom. So same thing, left hip tends to favor more external rotation, more of an open hip. And so if we can emphasize a little bit more internal rotation with a closed hip, it can help to stretch the muscles that are really tight and strengthen the ones that are over lengthened. So we can use a different hold on each side to support more balance within the pelvic floor while still doing a both-sided movement. Because I know sometimes it's hard to do things only on one side. So let's switch feet. Right foot is down now, still in the right hand. As I lower, I'm gonna find more of an open hip position. So inhales to lower, maybe left hip moves away from that right foot, and then exhales to stand up. In about 15 seconds, we're gonna move into a standing hip shift. So really similar sensation to the all fours hip shift with the block that we did, but it might be a little bit more intense. Place your weight down and let's move into the hip shift. So we'll start with that left foot. That left foot is gonna step back and right foot is gonna step just a little bit forward. Start with the hands out in front of you and then open up like a book to that left side. Keep weight in both big toes, and then we're gonna kind of hinge forward to feel more of a stretch in this deep glute. So weight is in both big toes, so the knees are kind of coming inwards. I'm thinking right hip is rotating forward, again, as if I was trying to touch my right hip and my right knee together, and feeling a big stretching sensation in this hip pocket. Now, if you're not really feeling it, just kind of shift your weight a little bit more into the left, so like you could lift the right foot up. And then I want you to find just a slight tuck underneath in the butt. If you feel tons of hamstring, just bend in the knee a little bit more. It doesn't have to be super straight. After we do the left side, we'll switch to the right, and then we're gonna do an alternating variation. Make sure more weight is in that left foot, slight tuck underneath of the butt. Lots of weight in the left big toe. If there's anything that you do, think weight in the big toes. And now let's switch to the right. So right foot steps back, open up to the right side, hinge forward, and then lots of weight in both big toes. Think left hip is coming towards that right knee. So like I'm trying to bring those 2 points closer together. Slight tuck underneath, and then think weight is over into my right hip. So if I wanted to, I could lift the left foot up with some effort, but it wouldn't take too much. So really think about trying to rotate that pelvis towards the left side. You don't have to straighten the right leg, and then lots of weight in those big toes. This is gonna help keep you more internal. If you start to roll to the outside of the foot, this is gonna take you out of the hip shift.
Feel the same thing.
Now bring the feet more even, and we're gonna think shift to the right, and then I'm gonna shift to the left. So I'm just putting weight into each foot and thinking that pelvis is rotating forward. So my right hip is gonna shift forward as I shift, or my left hip is gonna shift forward as I shift into my right leg, and then my right hip is gonna shift forward as I shift into my left. And so you can even put your hands on your hips and just see how they change orientation. So I have my fingers facing forward. When I shift to my right, my little fingers point to the right side, And then when I shift to the left, they point to the left side. So this is how I know that my pelvis is actually rotating. And then you're thinking about what foot am I putting weight into? So that I put more weight into my left, more weight into my right, and then lots of weight in the big toes. So that was session number 2, and now let's move into the third one, which is gonna be with the long band. And so with the long band, we're gonna start with the right knee inside. If you don't wanna use the band, you will just do lunges without the band. And we're gonna think step back so that we can be a little bit more upright, and then extend the leg as we come forward. So we're gonna think lower down, so we're a little bit more upright, and then extend the leg as we come forward. After that, we're gonna move into a standing hip shift with the right leg inside the band. So I'm gonna think shift my weight into the left and then press out on that band, which is going to activate this right glute a little bit more. And then we'll do something different on the left side. If you wanna hold on to weights, feel free. Again, if you're not using the band, just omit it, and we're just gonna do lunges on the right side. So inhales to lower down, try to stay more upright, and then exhale to come up as you extend in that leg. So inhales are down, exhales to extend as you come up. So in this more upright movement, we're targeting the quad and glute a little bit more. And with the band, we're gonna have end range extension, which is gonna help to strengthen that quad a little bit more. And so this is especially helpful on the right side, where the right glute and quad are a little bit weaker compared to the left. And I lied, we're not gonna do the standing hip shift yet, but we are gonna step into the band for a lateral hip shift with banded assistance. So go ahead and step both feet into the band and then bring it up onto your hip and then step out away from the banded point. We're gonna come into that lateral hip shift where the band is gonna kind of pull us a little bit deeper. We're gonna do that for about 30 seconds and then we're gonna do some movement. So come into the lateral hip shift. If you need to, just kind of adjust where you're at. We really wanna feel more of a stretch in this groin and inner thigh. And again, if you don't have a band, you're just doing a lateral hip shift. So we're really thinking that right hip is coming towards that left knee and the band is kind of pulling us a little bit deeper. 5 seconds, we're gonna come into the movement portion. If you wanna hold weight, feel free. So go ahead and extend to come out. So I'm really pressing through that left leg to extend and then come back into the hip shift. And then extend to come out and then come back. And then again, if you wanna hold on to weight, feel free. You're bringing it to the left side and then using that to kind of push through. So you're gonna feel this a lot more in like the left inner thigh to kind of push you out of it, and then more of a stretch in the right inner thigh. So the exercises in this last circuit are going to be one-sided, which may feel really hard for you. So if you want to turn around and do it on the other side after the video is done, feel free. But we're doing this one-sided intentionally because of the balance that is typically within the pelvic floor. So now we're gonna face away, keeping both hips inside the band. We're gonna face away, we're gonna put more weight into that left foot, and then that right foot is gonna stagger back, and we're gonna come into some staggered stance RDLs. So you can hold on to your weight. We're gonna think inhale to lower down, and then exhale to extend in the hip, and then again, more weight is in that left foot. So we're reaching for that left foot, and then exhale to stand up. So a little bit of rotation happening. We're gonna feel it a lot more in the hamstring and glute as we extend with the band. So on the right side, the quad and glute are a little bit weaker compared to the left. On the left side, the hamstring and inner thigh are a little bit weaker. About 10 seconds, we're gonna move into that hip shift. So this is where we're gonna take the band and put our chest around the right leg. Go ahead and place that weight down. Take the left foot out, and it's just gonna be the right leg in the band. And then that left foot is going to step back. Or I guess you could have both legs if you wanted. Sorry, step it over. So I'm gonna hinge into that left foot and then press out in that left band. And that activation in that right glute is gonna push you more towards that left side. So I'm pressing actively out in the right leg, which is gonna rotate my pelvis more towards the left, because right glute activation is going to open this hip up more and bring you a little bit deeper into the left hip. And again, if you don't have a band, you're just doing a standing hip shift. And then if you want, you can let the right knee come in as you stand up, and then you can press it out as you lower. So we're essentially gonna come in and out of it, or you can just maintain the bottom hold. Keeping weight in that left big toe. This is a little bit more complex of a hip shift variation. It's one of my new faves though. I love adding in bands and weights to help kind of change the activation. So when we activate that right glute, it brings us deeper into the left. So it helps us stretch more in the left side as the right glute is strengthening.
10 seconds.
And this concludes our 30-minute pelvic floor reset and balance workout. Hope you learned a ton of new exercises that you can try to help support your pelvic floor balance. Hopefully you did it with me and you're feeling pretty good within your body. I definitely find that doing the hip shifts at a minimum can really be a game changer to any discomfort that you may be feeling. If you like this workout and you want more intentionally designed workouts like this, join our prenatal and postpartum fitness programs for daily workouts to help support you throughout your entire motherhood journey. And then if you're kind of outside of that pregnancy postpartum timeframe, maybe you're like 6 months plus postpartum, you can check out our Beyond Postpartum Strength program that I personally do, which is designed to help you stay strong as you continue to navigate motherhood with challenging exercises with new cycles and new workouts every day. You can check out all of our fitness programs on our website at mamastayfit.com and use code YouTube10 to get 10% off any of our online offerings. Our prenatal and our postpartum programs come with lifetime access, so you can use them now for this pregnancy, for this postpartum, and future ones, and then take your time with them during the postpartum as well. Our goal is to help you feel strong and capable in your body, and thanks so much for choosing us to do that with us.